You're watching or listening to Strangers in Space, and for the next half an hour, maybe, we're going to be bringing our own brand of joy to the world, so you don't have to. Hi, I'm JR.
Hi, I'm John.
Hi, I'm Matt.
Hello, I'm Steve.
And so later in this episode, we're going to bring you news about the cancellation of Doctor Who, about Disney walking away, about RTD telling blatant lies, and all this kind of stuff. In other words, a little bit of gossip that's almost certainly bullshit. And we're going to talk through a little bit of it and say why we think it's bullshit, probably. I don't know. But apart from that, there is an episode of Doctor Who just around the corner, and we've not done a news roundup for ages, and that's because there's not really been any news, because our news roundups tend to be production news, and well, Doctor Who's not been in production for months. In fact, all that's been in production and is just finished in production is The War Between the Land and the Sea, and I don't know if anybody has picked up any spoilers or anything about that. One of the rumours was that Russell Tovey was playing some kind of Baden, and something was overheard on set, which somebody took to mean that he was having an affair with one of the Sea Devils, but actually, which probably simply means that he's what you might call a collaborator or sympathetic to the Sea Devils during the course of this war between the land and the sea, which means that Russell Tovey presumably is the sensible heart of the story, I should imagine, rather than he's having bestial relationships with undersea reptiles, which I don't know, even for RTD, unless he really is going the whole Torchwood Miracle Day on it. We shall see, I guess. If nobody's got anything to say about that, should we talk a bit about Joy to the World?
Okay.
All right, trailers and things, and I don't know, the magazine's out, Doctor Who magazine. I read the thing in Doctor Who magazine. There's like a BBC press release now because we're into Christmas territory. Actually, Steve, you've not been with us for a while and you've not given your thoughts on RTD. So for the sake of the rest of us, to know where we sit in the conversation, because I mean, the rest of us are sort of, I guess we are basically open-minded, but probably ever so slightly agnostic, because the last series perhaps wasn't quite as good as we might have hoped it was, to greater or lesser degrees. I'm trying not to speak for John on that too much, because we're not obviously have the same opinion as each other. But Steve, what were your thoughts about the last series? How do you stand on RTD2?
RTD2, yes, okay. I was tremendously excited when he was coming back. It was announced on my birthday a few years ago, so I regarded that as the second best birthday present I'd ever had, and the first best birthday present was in 2003, when in effect the return of Doctor Who was announced late night on my birthday, and we heard about it the following day. So yeah, the 25th of December or thereabouts is portentous. Right, okay. I don't think it was handled very well. I think there was some good stuff in there. I think Ncuti Gatwa and particularly Millie Gibson was superb. There's some interesting stuff bubbling away in the background that we don't know what's happening yet. The Mrs. Flood stuff. I mean, it's all potential to be really good. I think the opening night with those first two episodes was an utter disaster. But they sort of painted themselves into a corner, didn't they? Because they had to come up with 2 episodes to start the series. And what could it have been? You'd only got 8 episodes. So what 2 could it have been?
And they clearly made the decision to do it on Eurovision, so that one of them had to be the musical episode, right?
Which was awful. I mean, of the series as a whole, of the 8 episodes, I think let's have a think. I think maybe those 2 I think were pretty dreadful. I think Rogue was awful, really bad. The last episode was really bad. Those 4 I think were not great episodes, and I think the other 4 were pretty good. I mean, ranging between solid, good, and fantastic. I think 73 is it? I always get the number.
73 yards. Yeah.
I'm not good with numbers. I'm a modern linguist, you see, rather than a mathematician. So I'd always
All
get the wrong
evidence to
number.
the contrary.
Yeah. Thank you. 73 yards is, I think, is fabulous. And the what's it, dot and bubble, I
Dot
thought
and
was
bubble, yeah.
magnificent as well. And the first half of the finale, as always with RTD, was great. There's a bit of a pattern there over the years, isn't there, with his two-part finales, apart from the very first one, which he managed to pull off. I think he can get carried away with nonsense, but sometimes, more often not, that nonsense is being carried away with, getting carried away with in interviews outside the show. He needs sometimes to learn to keep his mouth shut sometimes and let people decide what something means, rather than do a little interview and everybody go, "What? What did you just say?" Which happened a number of times.
That
I'm
seems to
thinking
be
back to the
something.
children in need sketch.
Yeah, that seems to
Well,
be
what?
something that's becoming
Yeah.
more and more the
Yeah.
case during RTD2. Whereas before, in RTD1, everything was just marvelous.
Yeah.
And he let the stories speak for themselves.
Yeah.
This time around, everything's marvelous. But he seems to have made a decision not to put the subject of the story in the story itself, but merely to talk about it in the interviews afterwards.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think he's a great writer. And I think he's a better writer now than he was in 2005 to 2009 when he was on the show before. I think he's developed and he's had life experience. He's had the tragedy of losing his husband and all that sort of thing in the intervening years. I think it's made him a better writer. And work like It's a Sin and Years, I think is superb stuff. And I think he can still do it, but
whether he can still do it in Doctor Who remains to be seen, because that was a very patchy first series.
It was patchy.
But I guess Boom is probably the one that's most pertinent to the conversation that we're going to have. I mean, I don't know that there's much of a conversation to be had, actually. But, so, last thought then, Steve, what did you make of Boom? Because Stephen Moffat had been showrunner for 6 series, 8 or 9 years, and then Boom it wasn't his greatest.
It wasn't bad though, was it? I
No, it
thought
wasn't
that was a
awful
really
at all,
solid
yeah.
episode. No, really solid episode. I mean, it's the pattern over the years, was it not, that Moffat working with Russell produced wonderful stuff. Moffat as showrunner produced generally wonderful stuff, with the odd clunker thrown in there when he was too busy doing Sherlock or something, or other things going on in his life.
Yeah, other things, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
But Boom to me is, I mean, it's a really solid episode.
Yeah.
It's a good episode, but it is not earth shaking in the way his episodes under RTD1 were, which leads us to Joy to the World. And I've got to say, personally speaking, this is probably the least excited I am for a Stephen Moffat episode for a very long time.
Have we decided, is it world or worlds?
World, singular. Singular.
Is that definite? Because it's been given different, some of the
promoted
trailers
both ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, well, I've got the BBC website open in front of me now with the listing for Christmas Day, and it says Joy to the World.
Okay. What one goes with Joy to the World?
Yeah, I've not heard the pluralized version of it, because it's a line from a hymn or something, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't realise. So all I can really say about Joy to the World is we're talking about a hotel that travels in time, but all the clips we've seen show it also travels in space. So I just think that in charge of the hotel has got to be Professor Chronotis, and that's my only thought about the Christmas special, is that it's going to be a sequel to SHADA somehow. I don't know.
Sequel to Delta and the Bannermen? The Navarinos use time travel, tourism?
Maybe so. Matt. I mean, so it's been me and Steve all the way so far. So Matt, Joy to the World. Have you got any expectations or thoughts about it yet? Because we're only 2 weeks out, really.
Yeah, I haven't really been excited for a Christmas special since Christmas Invasion back in 2005, because very rarely do they kind of click with me, so I've got low expectations for Joy to the World, even with Stephen Moffat as the writer. But I like Nicola Coughlan. I think she's really funny. It's nice to see it shake it up and change the companion for an episode. See Shooting Outward with somebody else. That would be quite interesting. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think I've seen the trailer for it.
Right.
I haven't gone out of my way to watch the trailer for the Christmas special.
We've had the trailer, we've had a clip, and we've had the cold open.
Yeah, I'm unconsciously doing a Lee Rawlings with it, I think. I mean, I'm so underwhelmed by Christmas specials now that the only way I'll get a significant amount of pleasure is by going in completely cold and seeing what I feel.
I don't think the trailer's had a BBC One broadcast yet, has it? I've been looking out for it and I've not caught it. And it's online, absolutely.
Actually, yeah, usually the trailers will show in the fortnight before something's broadcast. And actually, trailers being shown on the BBC now, I think there's more of a tendency to show the trailers afterwards. And then at the end, it's not, and it's showing on Christmas Day, but it's available on the iPlayer, because more and more it's the case that actually people find out about things on the internet. And if you catch a trailer on television, on actual physical television, really you want that to be a trailer for something that you can just go and find there and then, because what's the point otherwise? I've said this about trailers for years. What's the point of a trailer? It's telling you about something that you can't watch. And ever since sort of 2010, 2012, when iPlayer became something that started to be part of people's regular TVs that they were buying and taking home, what was the point of showing them trailers for things that they couldn't watch?
Create a sense of anticipation, because the big trailer at the moment, the BBC have run for Christmas Day, has been Wallace and Gromit, because that's their big Christmas Day event.
Well, absolutely.
It's the one
that's
least
moment television, isn't it? Yeah.
And it's the one that doesn't feature Greg Wallace, so they can safely advertise it without fear of having to withdraw it.
That's not Greg Wallace and Gromit.
Oh yeah, because they've withdrawn their Christmas special of
Andy's bald as well. All he needs is glasses.
Yeah, but that's actually a point, because I rather think the Doctor Who special is being out. It's rather being out. What word am I looking for? Overshadowed. It's by Wallace and Gromit and by Gavin and Stacey. And those are the ones that people are talking about. Those are the ones that are being promoted. This morning on BBC Breakfast, they did Radio Times preview of Christmas Day television. Doctor Who didn't get a mention. It was all Gavin and Stacey and Wallace and Gromit.
They've done this sort of digital marketing thing of keeping an eye on how much kind of traction each announcement. And I'd imagine, I know that Gavin and Stacey got a huge amount of buzz online, and presumably Wallace and Gromit as well. Whereas Doctor Who isn't coming back after an absence of X amount.
This is it.
It's part of the furniture.
Yes, exactly.
Strictly.
Although I'd rather have a colonoscopy than watch the Gavin and Stacey Christmas special after the last Gavin and Stacey Christmas special, which
Did you watch the last one?
Yeah.
Did you watch the series?
Yeah.
What was wrong with the last Gavin and Stacey? I've not seen the last Gavin and Stacey Christmas special.
It kind of demonstrated to me how much Gavin and Stacey had dated. I think it's got that kind of James Corden's convinced that he's still current, and actually he's not. He's
less current and more bun.
Yeah. I'm not.
Point being, Gavin and
Stacey and
Mrs. Brown's Gromit have had one episode each previous in the last 10 years. And so, of course, they're the events this Christmas. But Doctor Who's going to be sandwiched nicely between the two. And Doctor Who is on the front of the current edition of the Radio Times, which, because of the way Radio Times accelerates at Christmas so that they can put the Christmas double issue out a couple of weeks early, means that Doctor Who's on the cover of the one penultimate to the 2-week special, which doesn't have a television program on the front of it. Usually it's a nice Christmas painting. So Doctor Who is the last program to be on the cover of a Radio Times Christmas special before Christmas Day. So that's, and if you look at the adverts that do play on the BBC, which tend to be there, look what's coming up for Christmas, and you can catch it all on the iPlayer. And what splash page do they highlight on the iPlayer? The one with Doctor Who right next to it. So Doctor Who is, regardless of what people think, still very much part, not of the furniture, but of the forward thinking at the BBC as things stand. Doctor Who is a programme that attracts people to use their services.
And in a true demonstration of forward thinking, they're showing an edited down version of the war games on Christmas Eve, which
Very late night.
To be honest, I'm kind of looking forward to watching more than the Christmas special.
Probably because Pyramids of Mars, they showed Pyramids of Mars because it tied in with something on the telly. And so that was probably more successful than probably they might have anticipated. Because when they've repeated Doctor Who on BBC4 in the past, it's always not done very well. Because let's face it, Doctor Who fans have all got the DVDs. And nowadays, of course, everybody's got access to the stories on the iPlayer too. So there's really no big compulsion for anybody to go and watch Doctor Who on the iPlayer. And yet, actually, if you can make an event of it, like they did with Twitch, when they showed Doctor Who on Twitch, that made watching old Doctor Who an event. Pyramids of Mars made watching old Doctor Who an event. And the War Games, when they put the thing on Facebook or wherever, on social media for the War Games, all the comments underneath were, why? It doesn't need to be 90 minutes. How can you tell a story in 90 minutes? And so on and so forth. Basically the same complaints you had about the Daleks. And who is this for? Basically, people saying, who is this for? Well, the truth is, it's for Doctor Who fans. It's to attract us to watch something that we've already seen in a new way, bring our bums to the seats on a BBC screen just before Christmas, and to put our hands in our pockets for the Blu-ray thereafter, even though it's going to be sitting there on iPlayer. I bought the Daleks in colour on Blu-ray, right?
Yeah.
And no, but I've no doubt that enough Doctor Who fans will to have made it worth it. So
But I think there's another audience as well, isn't there? It's which is the one that they're talking about, the getting young people to look at classic Doctor Who. And there's no doubt that there's an awful lot of young people that won't look at stuff in colour and won't look at stuff in sorry, in black and white, and won't look in stuff in 10 episodes of a serial, but maybe will watch a 90-minute movie length special in colour.
Yeah, and
maybe
it's an attempt to translate the kind of grammar of that era for the modern era, and it's absolutely worthwhile experiment doing it that way. You can get eyes on it, the whole thing lives longer.
Yeah.
What more do you want?
Great.
And as I always say, and as I think the four of us probably will always say, it's not there to replace the original. It's there as an alternative.
They're not coming into my house and taking my copy of the DVD of the War Games away and saying, no, you can't watch this one anymore, are they? As far as I'm aware.
Hang on. I got a knock at the front door. Oh, it's Anthony Coburn. He's trying to get my DVD of.
Was that zombie Anthony Coburn? Or was it still Coburn?
We're assuming that the War Games has no link to the Christmas special.
Ah.
Well, the Daleks didn't have any link to Starbeast, did it?
Well, the Daleks was the earliest story they could conceivably do for copyright purposes. Then they did Pyramids of Mars that had a link, and now War Games.
Potentially,
it was War Games was rumored as being this year's one way back when they announced the Daleks last time. This is not a new thing. I mean, they were planning it a long time in advance.
Well, Joy to the World was written 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Well, absolutely.
Could be a line in there with the technology. Technology could be based on the Warlords kind of time zone stuff.
Well, there is a rumor that there's an old baddie coming back in Joy to the World. So,
well, Silurians and stuff, and Tyrannosaurus Rex. How many times has a Tyrannosaurus Rex turned up in Doctor Who?
Yeah, so, I mean, he's not a baddie unless he's
particularly in Moffat or Moffat edited scripts.
Yeah.
I tell you, Professor Chronotis. Professor Chronotis in tandem with the War Chief.
War Chief, that's the thing. The War Chief.
That's what it'll be.
We're talking about getting excited for Christmas specials. I mean, I've found a formulation which allows me to be excited for Christmas specials over the years. I mean, some of them have been really, really good. I mean, the first one, the Christmas Invasion, brilliant. I thought Capaldi's first was it his first one last Christmas? I thought was magnificent, absolutely lovely stuff. The
Christmas Carol Well, we'll be talking about it.
Yeah,
soon,
I don't enjoy that quite as much as.
oh, you're
some,
banned
but
from
yeah.
that episode then.
No, well, it's no, it's not bad. It's not bad.
It's
the
still
Matt
the
Smith
second best Muppet Christmas special. That's all I can say.
yeah. Well, maybe. The third.
Toby Haydock on Strictly Come Hamster the other day with his, because he was on the first time they did Christmas Carol and he booted it off. He said, "Oh, it's not one of the best Christmas specials, is it?" And then he said at the start of this episode, and you know what? I then went home and rewatched A Christmas Carol, and I've realised it's one of the very best episodes of Doctor Who that's ever been made, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not quite the Husbands of River Song, but we'll get to that at some point.
Husbands of River Song is fabulous, isn't it?
It is.
And the
Neither of them were anywhere near the
Matt
quality of the
Smith
Snowmen.
I was about to say the Snowmen. I love the Snowmen. I love the Snowmen. But no, the way I've worked out to get excited about Christmas specials is that almost always certainly during RTD1, it wasn't for me. It wasn't aimed at me. I was not that drunk 50-year-old sitting in front of the television, barely taking it in, that was the actual audience for it. That didn't matter because there were so many people tuning in and watching it, and there was such a buzz around Doctor Who, and it was such an event that I was able to get excited about that. The fact that so many people were enjoying, albeit in a state of stupor, the show that I love so much. Then in the Moffat era, it changed a bit, and we did start to get some good ones, and we started to get some ones with some thought to it. And yes, I mean, Christmas Carol is not my favourite, but it's good stuff. It's quality stuff, absolutely. And I think we might just be edging back towards the maybe not for me, but it'll get a big audience or being well.
I found a way of getting excited about the Christmas specials now, and that's taking a double bump of cocaine during the Queen's speech, and it's just worked perfectly.
The Queen's speech
or the King's speech, depending.
Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
I think they've missed a trick in not publishing this one at midnight again, as they have with the series, because what we've said is right. The big things on Christmas Day are going to be the new Wallace and Gromit and the new Gavin and Stacey. And yeah, Doctor Who being right in the middle of those two, with EastEnders as well, of course, is a great spot for Doctor Who to be in. But
Gavin and Stacey's later, isn't it?
It's after Doctor Who, yeah. But there's two EastEnders. My mate Andrew Mark Thompson wanted to point out to me the other day that it's a return to two EastEnders because they'd stopped doing that for a few years.
Big cliffhanger at the end of one, then you get Doctor Who, and then you come back after the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point I was about to make was, if they'd have broadcasted at midnight, you could also have had lots of families enjoying Doctor Who during the day. Because, like I say, with those trailers on the iPlayer, if you're saying, "Oh, and Doctor Who, by the way, you can watch it now," I'm sure plenty of families would have taken that up on Christmas Day. Because Christmas Day, yes, people will sit down for the Christmas programming, but that's a certain kind of person. For a lot of people, on Christmas Day, you don't want to be beholden to somebody's schedule. You just want to watch what you want when you want to watch it.
I don't know. Have you seen the ITV schedule this year? Brilliant.
I don't know. Is there an ITV schedule?
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not.
Fairly. Oh, it's got Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, so they give you a Trump for Christmas.
They've edited Trump out of some versions.
Oh,
yeah.
Somebody unironically posted the Channel 4 Christmas schedule on my timeline a couple of days ago with how brilliant is this? And it was basically the Italian Job and things like that.
But
and it's like,
at least they've put quality stuff on. The ITV haven't even put quality stuff.
No,
they've just given up. After the BBC, though, the best Christmas schedules for this Christmas is Talking Pictures TV. They put it, as always, a whole lot of interesting stuff for us older gentlemen.
Boomers. Right, let's move on.
Yeah.
Well, how many of us qualify as boomers here, JR?
I'm not a boomer.
I thought you said two, but one.
I'm not a boomer.
I think I definitely am.
I'm an
born in 1950. Born in 1958. I think that makes me very solidly a boomer, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yes. Whereas I was born nearly in the 1970s. So that makes me very definitely not a boomer.
I was born just weeks before Or Quatermass and the Pit first.
I mean, this is starting to sound like a conversation at an old people's home.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, I'm 66, you know.
Right, shall we do a couple of minutes on this gossip that I trailed at the start? I mean, there's always gossip around, and of course, gossip cycles around, and there has been a lot of gossip for the past few months about the fact that Disney Plus haven't yet made an announcement about whether they're going to be continuing with Doctor Who. And everybody has said there will be no announcement on this until after the second series is broadcast, because they want to, I guess, see the numbers. My contention has always been, I think, that if Disney were to get the back catalogue, then Doctor Who would become much more of a thing for them. Because as we all know, I mean, BBC have published the kind of figures that they get on the iPlayer. The figures that they get on the iPlayer for the back catalogue of Doctor Who dwarf the figures they get for new series as they come out. Not episode for episode, but just because it's a huge back catalogue and people like to go in and partake of it. And if you're talking about America and places like that, all the rest of the way around the world, if there's going to be a catalogue somewhere of old Doctor Who, that is going to be something that people are going to buy into. And because of the size of that back catalogue, those people aren't just going to partake of Disney Plus for a month or something while they binge the new series. They're going to take up Disney Plus all year round. So my contention, I think, has always been that I think it's more likely that Disney Plus get the back catalogue and continue to be involved in Doctor Who than that they just walk away from it altogether after 2 years. But we have kind of heard this week another sort of round of the rumour, this time potentially from an industry insider. And the iteration of it this time is that Disney Plus aren't going to be making any more Doctor Who. And, shock horror, neither is anybody. Because at the end of the second series, we'll have the war between the land and the sea. And then Doctor Who will go on an indefinite hiatus, unquote. And that all RTD's bluster about him writing a third series and prepping that up for production already is basically bluff, and it's not going to happen. I mean, I guess I'll put my tuppence worth in first. I think if it goes on an indefinite hiatus, I think that word indefinite is doing a massive amount of heavy lifting, because that could mean 18 months as much as it means 15 years. And I suspect that the hiatus that we're already having, because they're not producing series 3 yet, is to all intents and purposes an indefinite hiatus. I think this is just the same rumours that have been going around for the last 6 months, that have been echo chambered, and just they've bashed up against a couple of new iterations of the words they use. And I don't think there's anything in it at all, frankly. And I still think it's more likely that Disney Plus stick with Doctor Who rather than walk away from it. Go on, Matt.
Well, I sort of agreed, but then I heard an interview with Russell T Davies today confirming that Disney Plus had withdrawn. No, I didn't. But what he was saying was, he was talking about the relationship between the BBC and Disney Plus in the past tense in a particular way that made it sound like that there wasn't anything there at the moment. And he was talking about it as an interesting experiment in a way that made it sound like they were moving on from it. So it was just the ways, even trying to get the rumor out of my head, it made it sound very much like it was a past thing and he was looking to the future. So I'm kind
That's
of
interesting.
I've kind of shifted on the idea of Disney Plus maybe moving on from Doctor Who, but I'm not on the board with Russell T Davies is lying about having written series 3 and the BBC aren't looking for another streamer.
But from a sort of technical point of view, the position in the past has been that lots of broadcasters in lots of countries around the world have bought Doctor Who. And when they buy Doctor Who, they don't wait for it to be made and then say, oh, I'll have that. What they do is they go into contracts that will last for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, where they'll expect a certain amount of Doctor Who across a certain amount of time. And what they've done with Disney Plus is all of those contracts have come to an end, either because they naturally came to an end or I suppose there's probably one or two that got cut off prematurely, but obviously these contracts always come with, the opt-out clauses, and so presumably the BBC have opted out of a couple of those clauses in order to go all in with Disney. Now that they've gone all in with Disney, you're not in a position anymore where the BBC are basically tied in to producing Doctor Who. Now that they've gone in with Disney, the BBC could, if Disney walked away, say, okay, well, we're not in any contracts with anybody now, we could stop. Except they are in a contract with Bad Wolf. Presumably that contract with Bad Wolf would have had clauses for both sides to walk away, but why would they? Because Doctor Who, whatever way you cut it, is making money for the BBC and it's making money for Bad Wolf. I mean, the Disney deal, we don't know the ins and outs of it, but the BBC Studios deal previously was that money that came in for Doctor Who, some of that went back into Doctor Who for the production, and some of that went back to the BBC to produce other programs. And the deal with Disney Plus, I don't know, just as an interested observer from the outside, the deal with Disney Plus almost certainly is the same. Some of that money goes back to the BBC to make other programs rather than all being funneled into Doctor Who. And so the money that Doctor Who makes is for the BBC and for Bad Wolf. Even if Disney Plus walked away, both sides of that, and especially Bad Wolf, would be absolutely insane to stop making it altogether. So I still think, whatever the situation is with Disney, that we're still going to get Disney Plus. And Doctor Who, we have to. And
Russell T Davies did also say he's not bored of making the series. He's having a really good time.
Yeah.
So, and Russell T Davies is an asset as well. He comes with alongside Bad Wolf. The BBC will want to keep him, give him opportunities to write other things if he wants, whilst he's writing Doctor Who. So I'm definitely on the side of thinking that Disney Plus is probably on a timer now, but not Doctor Who itself.
I think that's absolutely right. That's exactly it. Why, as you say, why would they want to stop making it? It's making money for them. We know that a different variety of Doctor Who will be around the corner before very long, because it always has been like that. We get a variety of Doctor Who which a lot of people like or don't like, and then we get a different variety which a different lot of people like or don't like. And Doctor Who is very special in that it can change and appeal to a different audience every few years.
It's a little bit like, and this is going to sound slightly mad, but go with me, it's a little bit like the weather or the news. Now, the weather or the news, you expect a certain thing from it, and you expect it to always be there. But also, you don't really notice, but the weather and the news, the way it's presented, the way it's produced, the graphics, everything about it changes with the times. Doctor Who kind of has become like those things now. People just kind of expect it to always be there, especially now in the days of iPlayer and so on, right? So for large parts of the general public, Doctor Who is one of those kind of shibboleths that you associate with the BBC, and you don't really ever think about the idea that it'll finish. You just kind of assume that it's kind of always going to be ongoing. And obviously it's not like Weather or the News where it's on several times a day every day, but you know what I mean? It's something.
It is on my TV.
I would say they've just recently got rid of Top Gear, which was in a similar category for a long time.
Top Gear was based mainly on international sales on the Clarkson team.
Yeah.
And they did manage to severely injure a national treasure, England cricketer, didn't they?
They did.
So
A shibboleth is a password. Just saying.
Oh,
okay.
Yes. Are you going to go with what decimate means, Matt, as well?
No, just if you're going to use the word shibboleth, I think.
Yes, but it does mean sacred thing generally as well.
Yeah, it's a good word.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing. How many?
I should have asked Steve.
Shows?
He's the English.
Yeah.
I'm not the English guy. I'm the foreign languages guy.
Oh, fair enough.
Foreign languages guy. I thought it was an Irish stick that you could hit people with.
Shillelagh.
I know.
Nice.
I know.
Right, that definitely sounds like it's time we call time on this conversation. Unless anybody's got anything more they want to add.
No, I think it's again. How many other international shows does the BBC have? That's the thing to look at.
And look at it this way: 16 years. If it's off again for another 16 years, it'll go more quickly this time, because as you get older, these years go past much quicker, don't they? So
most of us will be dead by the time we get to the other end of it.
That's the other way of looking at it.
And we're at 20 years of the new series next year.
Yeah.
Season 7, isn't season 7 the nailed on next Blu-ray release?
I think so.
Allegedly. So that will explain the War Games. So now I'm no longer in the camp of the War Games and the Christmas special are linked. I think they produced.
No, they wouldn't do that.
Specifically produced the War Games because there's going to be a Blu-ray coming out
of the next season.
It's an extra.
Wow. The one
I got the wrong season.
I think that's because one thing they've added to this is John Pertwee at the end, haven't they?
Yeah.
Oh, the regeneration, yeah.
No, I just got the wrong season, but now you've excused it. Yeah, that's what I meant. They've added, so it can lead on to the next.
Have I shibbled your left, Matt?
No.
They won't do season 6 yet because they haven't done the Win in Space, have they? The Space Pirates or the Win in Space. They haven't done either.
There was one story missing from when they did season 2, The Crusade.
There was. This is true, but that was only 2 episodes out of 4. You've got most of the Win in Space, most of the Space Pirates missing.
My thinking on it is that if it's say 7 stories and they've got at least 5, they could potentially put 2 out with telesnaps on the understanding that if they become animated, people will just buy the Blu-ray and slot it in anyway, right? So because I mean, if you're going to put out a season with 14 episodes and a season with 46 episodes, I think you could get away with missing 12 of those 46, and you're still getting way more episodes than you are with the McCoy, right?
They haven't actually released any of the Blu-rays with animation yet, so we don't know how they're going to play that.
Oh, SHADA,
yes, fair play.
But yeah, I think because Disney, I don't know if you know this, Disney have this contractual thing where anything that's been shown on Disney Plus can't be released on physical media for 24 months. And then at the end of 24 months, that's when the Mandalorian Blu-ray came out and a couple of the others. WandaVision, yeah. And I think Obi-Wan, am I right? Or one of the others, I can't remember which one it was, has made it to Blu-ray as well now. And I suspect, and in North America, I believe the Gatwa series doesn't come out on Blu-ray for 2 years, or well, for another year and a half now, or whatever it is, in North America, unless I'm mistaken, but I think I'm right about that. Anyway, the point being, I think there's a similar thing going with the Blu-rays where the animations would probably have to be standalone releases for at least a year, if not 2 years, before they could come out on the probably 2. But being Doctor Who fans, we're all going to buy them in the first month anyway. So
yeah, but that doesn't rule season 6 out, that does it either? Because that's only got 2 animated episodes or 4 animated episodes. It's only got the invasion and the Space Pirates is the only one that has got any. There's only got the 1 episode. I think everything else is there.
Is Wheel in Space season 5 then?
Season 5, yes. The last season 5.
Yeah, okay. All right, so it's just Space Pirates, you're right.
Yeah. Well, in season 5 then is only missing the Wheel into Space, isn't it?
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah,
and season 4 is only missing the Highlanders and the Smugglers.
Yeah.
And season 1 is Marco Polo, and season 3 is the Massacre and the Mythmakers.
And the Daleks Master Plan.
And the Savages.
Yeah. Oh, and the Savages, yeah. So season 3 then will be the last Blu-ray.
That's the one with the big holes. I think it'll be the last Blu-ray.
Yeah.
That's the one where they can turn around and say, Ian Levine, do this Blu-ray for us.
Well, that's my contention. This is why they're doing Blake 7 now, because it's basically the same people doing them, and it will mostly sell to the same people. So I think because they're still handicapped by the black and white seasons, there's still only 1, whereas they're getting towards the end of the colour ones now. I think by slotting the Blake 7 ones in as well, that allows them to eke it out just that little bit more and put more resources into the black and white ones, because these things are supposed to be budgeted on an individual basis, but we all know that the figures get massaged if stuff needs to get done, and who's going to complain about that, right?
And they've gone a bit, as well as Blake 7, they're going wider still, aren't they? Because they've done the Box of Delights with the same team doing the documentary
which
on
I
it.
watched tonight.
And
this is latest
that
news.
documentary is
The documentary is much better than the actual series. I love the series. I felt much more nostalgic watching the documentary and the clips from the series than the series itself.
Exactly.
But I will do my annual rewatch of the first episode of Box of Delights, intending to watch the rest, and then I'll stop. That's what I always do.
Yeah, fair enough.
Outrageous.
No, I don't fetishize the Box of Delights. I mean, it's fine. It's
That's because
okay.
you're 74.
Yeah, well, I'm not 74, thank you. But it's no better than a lot of stuff.
I was what, 8, 9 when Box of Delights was on television. I am Box of Delights target audience.
Yeah.
I was too old for it, so I first saw it in my 30s, and when I watched it, all I could think really was, why are people banging on about this pile of steaming shit?
It's a lot of posh kids, isn't it?
You want to get Joe Ford on for a podcast about it now. He loves it.
Right, we have
a lot of people do.
We've gone well over our half an hour, so I'm going to call time on this definitely now. We'll be back after Christmas to review Joys of the World and discover that actually, despite some hesitancy, we loved it in the end anyway, probably.
It's Stephen Moffat and JR. It's a romance made in heaven.
It's not Eric Saywood, though, is it? And on that note, until we come back, I was JR.
I was John.
I was Matt.
And you were Steve.
And I was Steve.
And we will speak again soon.